Hi, everybody. This is Wendy Grogan, counselor at Wimberley High School. Normally, we would be having a senior student and parent night where we would gather together so that I could make sure that all the seniors and parents knew exactly kind of what steps they need to be taking at this time of the year. Actually, we probably would have done this a little bit earlier, just to make sure everybody knew what steps they needed to take to make sure they had a plan for after high school as we're entering into the second 6 weeks now, halfway through the second 6 weeks of the senior year. There's a lot of things that I know kids are already coming at us with questions about, and then other kids are like, I haven't even started, I'm not sure what to do, and then other kids are saying, I don't know what my plan is after high school at all. So I'm going to try to touch base on all of those things today in my presentation and just kind of give you a general overview of both plans for after high school, how to just get started on those plans. And then also we're going to talk about financial aid as well. Sometimes those are two different meetings, the financial aid part and the college app part, but I'm going to just try to touch on all of that stuff in this one video. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to take direct questions by recording something, which is, I think, is a really good part of a meeting in person, because I think some of the things that parents have questions about, other parents probably do as well. So if I don't cover something in this presentation that you may have questions about, feel free to reach out to me via email or to Adriana Phillips, who's the other counselor here at Wimberley High School. Either one of us can help you answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with a PowerPoint presentation that I have with some information, and we'll get started. Okay, so I think you can see my PowerPoint now, I hope. I'm just going to kind of run through this again fairly quickly and just be touching on some key points. Reach out to me if you have any other questions. This night is really for students and parents together. I usually love when I see a student come into this meeting with their parent, because I think it's really important that students start to kind of take over the reins in some of these decisions and kind of how to move forward, but they definitely still need their parent support and their guidance through this process. So just some important dates for all seniors to know. Graduation is set for May 28th of 2021. I'm sure, like me, be glad to be saying 2021 instead of 2020. As of right now, that is still set to happen at Strahan Coliseum. We'll see. As you well know, things change and we have to be flexible and fluid, but hopefully, fingers crossed, all things are a go for graduation on May 28th. College application deadlines are approaching. There haven't been any deadlines quite yet. So nobody's like completely missed anything that they needed to take care of, but those dates are, some are quickly approaching. So just want to make sure that the students who are interested in applying at some of those colleges that have December 1st deadlines are getting going on that and are getting all the pieces to their application completed and ready to have a completed application submitted by the deadlines. My best advice to you would be to look at your the colleges that you're interested in, look at their websites. They will have that information about what their deadlines are. UT, Texas A&M have pretty early deadlines. December 1st is a general rule of thumb for the application and also for the scholarship deadlines. So sometimes, like at Texas State, you'll see they'll have an application deadline a little bit later. I think theirs is in March, but the scholarship deadline will be much earlier than that. So if you intend to apply for scholarships through that college, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that deadline, probably just as importantly, if not more importantly, than the application deadline. And many times, in fact, most times at Texas public schools, for sure, the application for admission is the same as the application for the scholarship. Every now and then they'll put in an extra additional essay if you're planning to apply for as a scholarship portion, but for the most part, it's the same application. The other big date that has already happened is the FAFSA application has opened up. That started October 1st. So I definitely encourage you to get going on FAFSA, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The other thing we're going to cover tonight are scholarships, both local and the college scholarships. So I'll make sure that you have all the information you need on that. And we'll also talk about housing. That's a pretty big key step once your student has a plan to look at what the housing options are and not to miss any of those housing deadlines as well. All right, here we go. Senior year is well on its way. It's looking very different in a lot of ways for some of you, and for some of you, you're coming to in-person school and maybe it looks a little different, but not totally different. Some of you are still remote learning. So whatever that looks like for you, you know, I'm thankful to be having school. I know you probably have mixed emotions about that as students, but I think we're well on our way and are really making plans for the senior year and heading into graduation. The biggest thing I can tell kids and parents is heading into that senior year is to just find your path. And that looks so different for so many kids. Out of 170 seniors, you know, we'll have so many students that have different paths and different things that they're interested in. Definitely, we have a large number of students heading to college campuses. We have students who plan to enter the military and are already making plans and meeting with military recruiters to get that in place. We have students who have plans to just enter the workforce. Many of those have gotten or intend to get some sort of certification, even maybe here at Wimberley High School, that will lead straight into a job in the workforce, which is a great plan for a lot of kids. There are definitely certification programs. I'll touch on that a little bit that you could get through ACC or Texas State Technical College. There are students who have a plan to get an associate's degree, which would be a 2-year degree, an LVN, something of that nature. And then again, a bachelor's degree is what I would say a good chunk of our students have that as their plan to head straight into a 4-year university. So I'm going to touch on all of those things, as all of our paths are very different, and I just want to make sure that everyone kind of has a plan in place. So if you're headed down the college path, even within that path, there are lots of different options. Certainly, Austin Community College is super close to where we live. That is a great option for a lot of students who, you know, maybe aren't ranked that high in their class and are not maybe going to meet the requirements for initial admission into a 4-year university, or a 4-year university that they really wanted to attend. And so a good option for some of those students is to start at Austin Community College. The tuition is certainly cheaper than starting out at a big 4-year university. Smaller class sizes. I will say, you know, in this new era of COVID, that a lot of students and parents are taking the situation into account as they're making decisions about what path they're going to head down. I did have a lot of parents last year whose student was heading to a 4-year university who maybe found out that that university was going to be completely online, then opt to change their course of their path and decide to just have their students stay home and take courses at Austin Community College. Again, a great option. A lot of our students, if you've already taken a dual credit class with us before at Wimberley High School, then you're already enrolled at Austin Community College. And there's just a few things that I would need to help you do in order to let them know that you're not just going to be a dual credit student, that it is your intention to continue on there and take classes as a regular college student upon graduation. So just let me know if that ends up being your plan. Definitely can help you with that. Right now, ACC has gone to completely online for this fall semester and the spring. I've already heard the spring is going to be online as well, but I'm unsure about what the fall is going to look like for next year. And so again, that's just something to consider as you're looking at options. Junior colleges are a great option as well. 2-year colleges. Blinn is a pretty popular one. Temple has a good junior college. There's lots of different junior colleges out there that can lead directly then to getting 2 years of your basics out of the way and then transfer into those last 2 years at a 4-year university. There's certainly 4-year in-state universities. Those are private and public. Private is going to be not receiving funding from the state. Generally speaking, there's some religious affiliation to most of those schools, and in general, they are a lot more expensive than a public university. But I will also say I've seen kids get way more scholarship money from some of those private institutions. So don't count those out. If that's something you might be interested in doing, I would definitely encourage you to apply. and see what type of scholarship money you can get. Many times a student can get scholarship money at a private university that either takes it down to the same price that they would be paying at a public university, or even sometimes more than that. So keep those in mind. And then certainly public universities such as the University of Texas, Texas A&M, Texas State, Stephen F. Foss, those are all four-year universities that are public. And then there are certainly four-year out-of-state universities, again, private and public. And the one thing I would say, we do have a lot of students who are interested in out-of-state universities. And if that is your path, just make sure you're looking at the out-of-state tuition rates, because that can also be a big important factor in deciding if an out-of-state school is the right path for you or your student. Okay, so how to get in. If you're interested in Austin Community College, like I said earlier, you just need a high school diploma. You need to take the TSI, which again, if you've participated in dual credit classes with us already, you already have taken the TSI test. But if you haven't, you certainly may set that up. Right now, ACC is only doing TSI testing remotely. You can find that information on their website. But you can also reach out to me. I can give you that information as well. You may also score high enough on have scored high enough on your SAT, your ACT, or also your end of course exam to be exempt from TSI. And all that data is on the ACC website under their TSI page. What the requirements are there. The thing I would warn you about is if you do start at a community college or a junior college, is to just kind of have in your mind what your next step would be after the community college time is over. That makes it super helpful. If you're going to go to ACC, I would definitely encourage you to have a plan in place. Are you going to continue after that at Texas State? If so, what would your major be? Because you really want to make sure that when you're taking those courses at Austin Community College, that you're taking courses that will apply to that degree plan at Texas State. ACC is not going to be the one to give you your bachelor's degree. That's going to come from Texas State. So you're going to need to meet their requirements in regards to the courses that you are taking to earn that diploma from Texas State. So ACC they're pros at this stuff. Everybody pretty much transfers out of there at some point. So they have a lot of people in place that are there to help advise you on what your path is after ACC and making sure that you're taking care of meeting those requirements. The other thing I would tell you is just to know the transfer requirements for the university that you plan to attend after ACC. So if you plan to apply to be a transfer student at Texas State following ACC, what you want to be looking at the Texas State website is the transfer GPA requirements. They almost all have some sort of GPA requirement, a 3.0, 2.75, 3.5, something like that. That is your GPA, not from high school. That is your GPA from your courses that you took at the community college, and usually some amount of hours that they require that you've completed. Usually, let's say a 3.0 and 30 semester hours would be a transfer student, let's say at Texas State. So just look at those university web pages, websites, and they'll tell you what the transfer requirements are if ACC is something that you're interested in doing, or attending a junior college as well. ACC also has amazing vocational programs and associate degree programs. If you are a student, or your student is someone who just cannot see themselves jumping into 4 more years of college, then please check out the vocational programs at Austin Community College. Automotive tech, culinary arts, certainly LVN, tons of stuff in the medical field that you can go and in 2 years be ready to enter the workforce with a certificate in your hand. And most times those programs there are significantly cheaper than attending a privately owned vocational program. And so just do your homework there. I can help you do that as well if you have some questions about that. That's really something to look into if that happens to be your plan. All right, if your child's planning to attend a four-year university, I have in big letters there, admission requirements differ from college to college. Check the college's website. Definitely you have colleges like the University of Texas where the top 6% is an automatic admission, and a few kids may get in that aren't in the top 6%, but it's very difficult. You've got all the other public universities are the top 10%. They have different deadlines, all of that. So check their websites. Most of those four-year universities are going to base admissions off of your class rank and your GPA. Your GPA is what goes into your class rank. SAT and ACT normally would be a mandatory piece to your application at the four-year universities, but this year they are going test optional. I'm sure you've heard that. I've had a lot of questions from kids and parents about what is test optional. It simply means that they are going to accept your application without an SAT or an ACT score. Some of the larger universities here in Texas have already reported to me and other counselors is that a test score will not harm a student's application, but it can help a student's application. So I know you all had your SAT and ACT test canceled last spring. I certainly recorded a video earlier this year talking about adding additional tests that we have done that here at Wimberley High School. And I've seen a lot of your faces on Saturday mornings up here with me taking those tests. So that's awesome. I know a few of you are still planning to try to get a test in November, December. That go full steam ahead with that. I definitely think it's in your best interest to take one of those exams. Like I said, it can only help you. It can't hurt you. So if you are able to take a SAT or ACT, I would definitely encourage you to try to get one of those in. And I would also say that it can be very helpful in the scholarship side of things. So again, they are test optional. They will look at your application as completed without a test score, but I definitely think if you have an opportunity to take one, please do. They're going to require that you submit an official high school transcript. Some applications will have you send either myself or Ms. Phillips and a little link that we upload that transcript in, but other ones want you to send it through another system. If you need to request a transcript, you do that by seeing our registrar here at the front office at the high school. Her name is Rhonda Nolan, and you will fill out a quick little transcript request form, and she will make sure that those transcripts get sent to whatever colleges you plan to apply to. Letters of rec, I think I've already touched on this earlier in the school year in the first video that I made, but definitely if you have not reached out to some teachers or people that know you well to get some letters of rec going, I would highly encourage you to do that. The colleges do report that they would please advise you to not submit more than 2 letters of recommendation. If you submit letters of rec as part of your application, and they're kind of required to read those, and they're pretty annoyed when they have 10 letters of recommendation that they're kind of required to read, when really they've asked for 2. So don't do that. That's not helpful. I think sometimes students feel like it's helpful if I can get 10 letters of recommendation and send those all in, but really it's actually detrimental to your application. Please just select 2 of the letters of rec that you maybe have received and then submit those only. Most of the time you do need an academic resume. There's lots of templates online that you can kind of plug in your information. It's basically asking you things that you've participated in, community service, extracurricular activities, things of that nature, clubs, organizations. Your essays are super, super important, especially in this era of a test optional. So much of what the admissions committee is getting to know about you comes out of those essays. I definitely encourage you to have someone look over those, make sure they are grammatically correct. And I would just say speak from your heart in those essays, because again, that can be a key point in whether you get in or not. And then most universities do have an application fee. It can be anywhere from $75 down to $25, and sometimes you'll get an email from a university that says, hey, just apply here and we'll waive your application fee. So all of that is great. If you did use a fee waiver to take SAT or ACT, reach out to me. I can give you a fee waiver for the application fees as well. Most of the colleges in Texas, actually all the colleges in Texas that are public universities, use a common application, which is super nice. That means you only have to fill it out one time. You can submit it to numerous universities without having to keep filling out the application. Giving you the website there, it's applytexas.org. And so I just tell you, it's pretty cut and dry. You just start filling it out. Sometimes students get stuck on a particular question. You can save the application. You can reach out to myself or Ms. Phillips with an email about, I have a question about this. I'm not sure how to answer that. We'll get right back to you. And then you can go back into your application and complete that as soon as you're able. The essays are submitted through there as well. You have automatic admission versus admission review. Again, state law requires that public universities automatically accept anyone in the top 10% of their class if you are attending a public university in Texas. That, again, is an exception for the University of Texas, which gets an exception to that law, the top 6% there for automatic admits. Then there's academic admits that maybe they have something on their website that says, well, maybe you're not in the top 10%, but maybe if you're in the top quarter of your class and you have this SAT score or this ACT score, we'll also automatically take you. You'll see that on a lot of websites. However, I will say that Texas A&M this year reports that they are no longer doing that. So if you're not in the top 10%, then everybody else goes into academic review for admission. So again, lots of things to consider there as you start to select schools that you want to apply to. How to pick a school. I would definitely encourage students to look at their major, that's something that they want to do for a career. This is a job that you're potentially going to have for a very long time in your life. And so sometimes students will pick a college based on a football team or something like that. And then when I say, what do you want to study? And they tell me, I'm like, I don't even think that college has that as a degree plan. So do your homework there. Make sure that the university that you are interested in offers the major that you are wanting to study. Look at the admission requirements, and then look at the financial realities of what that university is going to cost to attend. Most of the time, what I tell students, unless you're just die hard to go to a particular college, then my best advice is to apply to numerous schools and do the applications, do all of the admission requirements, and then follow up with your FAFSA and a scholarship, meet the scholarship application deadlines as well. And then maybe just sit back and see what comes about, what may be the best financial option for you. You will be surprised at how different those things are from school to school. And so unless you're just, I'm going to this school no matter what, as long as I get in, then I would definitely encourage you to put a lot of feelers out there with applications and kind of see what the money looks like. As you get more into the spring semester, those letters will start to come in from those universities. Look at in-state versus out-of-state and what are the ramifications of that, public versus private. Look at the geography of how far away the school is going to be. I know it can be very difficult for a student to be so far away from their parents, and that can kind of play in as a factor in how they are successful that freshman year. If they're super homesick, which most kids go through a little bit of that anyway, but it can be kind of detrimental to their academic progress there if they are, knee deep in just being unhappy. So take all of those things into consideration. The size of the town that the college is located in can be a factor as well. Look at things like, are they going to accept your dual credit hours that you've earned through ACC? For a lot of you, that would be a factor. And then also take a look at what their AP credit policy would be. So any public university in Texas is required to take your hours from Austin Community College. That was put into place several years ago, but they don't necessarily have to give you credit for whatever ACC gave you credit for. Like, they have to take the hours. Most universities will, though. AP credit is a different ballgame. There is a law now in Texas that says if you make a 3 or higher on your AP exam and you attend a public university in Texas, they are required to give you the AP credit for that. However, again, it differs from school to school. What Texas State might give you for a Bio 2 AP exam score is going to look different than what UT is willing to give you for that Bio AP score. I believe Texas State will give you the first 2 semesters of biology and the first 2 labs that go with those. So that's actually 8 hours of credit, college credit, where I think UT only gives you the first biology class for that. So you're talking about 4 hours. It's a 3-hour class plus a lab. So it's 8 hours at Texas State, 4 hours at UT. So those are all things to kind of consider as well. You can find that information on their websites. And then I would say go on a campus tour. Those things I would have encouraged you to have done last spring. They were not options, but slowly but surely colleges are opening back up for campus tours. And a lot of them are just limiting those to current seniors. So definitely reach out to those colleges. You get 2 days your senior year to take a college visit where it won't count against your attendance. So be sure and do that, because a lot of times kids will tell me, my own personal children as well. Like, you can really get a feel for if this is where you're meant to be by actually stepping on that college campus. Most of them still do have really good virtual tours on their website, so definitely take advantage of that. But I would also encourage you, if you are able to actually get your feet on that campus and kind of check it out in person if you are able. All right, let's talk about financial aid. There's lots of different types of financial aid. This is a huge factor for most families in regards to where their student is going to be able to attend college. So you're looking at things like college scholarships that are given from the college. I would say the majority of big scholarship money comes directly from the colleges themselves. So you definitely want to be paying attention to those deadlines and getting those applications in as well. Then there's scholarships that are open to anybody in maybe your county or your state or in the United States or in the world, that are open for anybody to apply to. And everything that I know about that gets sent to me personally or to Ms. Phillips, we post on our Wimberley High School Scholarship page. Definitely encourage you to check that out. We also have some links like FastWeb and a couple other links that are scholarship search engines where you can see thousands and thousands of scholarships that are out there. You know, people ask me all the time, like, oh, I need my kid to get a bunch of scholarships. It's a matter of sitting down and doing the legwork to fill out applications. So our Wimberley High School Scholarship page has a ton of good information and a lot of links on there to access those scholarships. Then we have our local scholarships. So those are ones that are going to come about in the spring. Those are just available to Wimberley High School students. There's a few that are just available to Hayes County students. Those would be included on that same scholarship page. You won't really see any of those on there now, but those will start trickling in January. I cannot encourage you enough to apply for those. They will only go to Wimberley High School students. You know, COVID threw us a little bit for a loop last spring in so many ways, but our community still did a fabulous job of supporting our senior class last year with scholarship money, and I am fully intending that that is going to happen again this year. But I will also say that there were scholarships that maybe we had 4 or 5 kids apply for. So really pay attention to that. And if your student is interested in a vocational program, we have like 4 local scholarships that are specifically for kids going into vocational programs. And so I definitely would love for you to reach out to me or Ms. Phillips and let us know if that's your plan, so that we can just kind of have your name on the back burner there when those scholarships come about. We can reach out to you personally and like, hey, make sure you're filling this one out, because we do not have very many applicants for a lot of those applications. Then you have the other things that come through the FAFSA form. That is grant money. Grant money is the best. It's free money. You never have to pay that back. You may have heard things like Pell Grants. Those are things that all, again, come through that FAFSA, FAFSA. And also work study also comes through the FAFSA, which means that your university would hire you to be a student worker, and they would pay you an hourly wage for, usually it's some kind of an office job. You work in one of the departments there on campus, but they do expect that you're going to use that money to help pay for some of your college expenses, and that's called work study. Also comes through the FAFSA. You have the dreaded student loans, which are unfortunately a necessity for most families. And then you have parent loans, again, a necessity, unfortunately, for a lot of parents. And all of those things come through the FAFSA form. And so what you'll do is fill out that FAFSA, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming slide. And then that's how your student would find out from their university in a financial aid award letter what of those things they might qualify for. Then you have the Hazelwood Act, which is for children of veterans. No, I've already had a couple kids reach out to me about that this year. So if you are a parent that has been in the military in the past, you may have some Hazelwood Act money still left in there, and it's been a huge help to a lot of students. There's the website. You certainly can just Google the Hazelwood Act, and it'll take you to that direct link. Lots of good information there about how to access that money. So how to apply for aid. Colleges offer their own scholarships. Again, I've touched on that as well. our open scholarships, our local scholarships, the Wimberley ISD scholarship webpage is the way to go for that. So believe it's under the counselors page. Go to the Wimberley High School website and then go to the counselors page. You'll see a link for the scholarship page. Grants, student loans, parent loans, all through FAFSA. If you are an undocumented student, meaning that you do not have a social security number, then you would not be eligible for federal aid, but you could be eligible for state aid, and that form is called the TASFA. And I would just encourage you to reach out to me if you need some help finding that and accessing that. I can definitely help you, and Ms. Phillips can as well. In the age of COVID right now, a lot of people's income has drastically changed from your income tax return for the year that you are going to use for the FAFSA completion. If that's the case, what I would tell you to do is to reach out to the financial aid office directly at the school that your child plans to attend and work with them directly. You won't be able to really explain that on the FAFSA, but because it's going to be completely based off of your income tax return for the year 2019. Again, finances may have drastically changed. You may have lost your job since then or had a significant decrease in your income. That's not going to be reflected on your 2019 income tax return, but you will still need to complete the FAFSA with the 2019 income tax return, but reach out directly to the financial aid office at that university. And they have some forms that you can fill out in order to ask for an exception to what's reported on that FAFSA. There's a few of you that are planning to apply to colleges that also require the CSS profile, which is another financial aid information document. And I've given you the link there as well. So be just aware of that. There's a link for the FAFSA. You can just Google FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A. I want you to be very careful, though, that you're on the right website. This is a federal form. It is free. The letters stand for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So there are some other websites that are not the government website. So be careful of those. Make sure you're on the right website. And again, it's open now. It's opened as of October 1st. And you'll see priority deadlines at various colleges. It doesn't mean that if you miss that deadline that you cannot still submit it. It just means colleges get an X amount of money to dish out in grants and loans and work study from the federal government, and it's like a first come first serve. So you may have qualified for a Pell Grant, but you were slow to get your application in. And so they may have already dished out all the Pell Grant money that they were awarded from the federal government. And even though you would have qualified for that, there is no Pell Grant money left if you drag your feet on that. So just be sure that you're getting that done. I have filled this form out as a parent numerous times as well. This is actually my last year to have to fill it out. And so I know it can be a little daunting, but the reality is if you have that income tax return from 2019, the year that's going to be questioned on the FAFSA, then it is not too terribly hard to do. If you get stuck and have some questions, you can definitely reach out to me. You will need to fill out the FAFSA. You will need Social Security number for the student and the parent. The other thing I would really encourage you to do is the pages look exactly the same for the student and the parent. So you want to make sure that when you're filling out the FAFSA, you're paying attention to the top of the screen and noting if this is asking these questions concerning the student or is this asking these questions concerning the parent, because the questions are the same for the most part. And so just be really careful. You can get a little confused there. You need your driver's license number, your tax return from the year 2019, which you should already have. You need any income and asset information, including child support information if you do receive that. And you would need information on any cash savings accounts, investment, stocks, bonds, things like that. You will have to report that on your FAFSA. The application is free. If you ever get sidetracked to another website that's trying to get you to pay for filling out the form, then you are on the wrong website. Do not pay for filling out the FAFSA. It's free. College is certainly not free. After you have completed that, it will go to the colleges that you report on that FAFSA, and then you will kind of sit back and wait. And when your student gets accepted at that university, the financial aid office will take a look at the FAFSA, and then they will send your student and you, and it'll either come at paper mail or it may come in an email. So be watching for that. A letter that's called an award letter, and that is how they will say, okay, if it costs $25,000 a year to attend this university, we feel like your EFC, and I have that at the bottom of the screen, which stands for your estimated family contribution. That is what the government feels like based on your income and your assets, that you should be able to help your child pay for their year of college. So let's say your EFC is, $15,000, then they think, okay, you have enough money that you should be able to write a check for $15,000 and pay that portion of the $25,000 that's going to be due for your student to enroll in a year at this four-year university. And then the other $10,000 would be met through either a grant, a work study opportunity, or it may just come in the form of a student loan or a parent loan. And you select the things that you want to accept, and you decline the things that you don't want to accept. So you always want to accept the grants, free money, never have to pay that back. Work study is a great option as well. Work study jobs are really nice for students to have. So I'd always accept those two things. And then the thing you'll have to consider is, do we really want our student to take out this student loan, or do we as parents also want to take out this parental loan? And you can accept certain things and not accept others. So if you do not want to accept the student or the parent loan, then that's fine. You don't have to do that. But that's money you're going to have to come up with out of pocket to meet that $25,000 a year tuition and housing fee. So just all things to keep in mind. It can get a little confusing when those award letters start to come in. If you need some help with that, certainly give me a call, give Ms. Phillips a call. We can definitely walk you through what those things are meaning. And then they'll give you some kind of deadline that you have to report. If you're going to accept these things by this certain deadline, you have to tell the university that. So just to touch on student loans a little bit. So the freshman year, the student is only eligible to borrow up to $5,500. Their sophomore year, they are eligible to borrow, and these are government loans, by the way. There are private loans that are out there as well, but from the federal government, their sophomore year, $6,500, junior and senior year, $7,500. It increases by $1,000 each year for what the student is able to borrow, and the rest will fall into a parent loan. There's subsidized loans versus unsubsidized loans. So that's really a key important part to know when you're trying to determine if you're going to need to accept this loan or not. Subsidized loans means that the interest will not accrue while your child is in school. Those are the better loans to get, because it's just not building interest in the 4 years that your student is there. And then there's unsubsidized, which means that interest is going to be accruing during the 4 years that your student is there. There are options to just pay the interest as you go, maybe not pay on the principal of the loan, but just pay on the interest. There's different options there. It can get a little confusing, but please make sure you and your student know what you're getting into when you borrow. Most of the time, it's a necessity. If the student doesn't borrow or the parent doesn't borrow, then the kid can't go to school. So I would just encourage you to be smart about the way you borrow the money. Only borrow what you have to go to school, and get a college education, because if you borrow the money and then you do not complete the college education, you still owe the money to the government, and they are going to get their money from you one way or the other. So that would actually be the worst thing that you could do, is to take out student loans and then not complete the degree, and have a decent job to pay those student loans back, possibly. Housing. So I would definitely tell you, if you're planning to attend a four-year university or even a junior college, you want to definitely look at the housing options. Some colleges require you to live on campus for freshmen, sometimes even freshman and sophomore years. Some universities do not require that. You need to determine if your student's going to live in a dorm, or if they are going to want to get in housing in the community somehow, like an apartment, or if they're going to attend a university that's close enough to home that maybe they're going to live at home and commute to the university. All those are good options. I would say if your child is going to plan to live in a dorm, as soon as you're accepted, get on the housing. Those housing options at big universities fill up and go quickly. So just be aware of that and get on the dorm situation quickly. If your student is planning to attend UT or Texas A&M, I would definitely say almost the day you find out you're accepted, get on there and do the housing. A deposit is usually there, and it almost is refundable. So if they change their mind or plans change, sometimes parents feel like, I don't want to put this, $500 deposit down on housing. We're not exactly sure. You can almost always get that back. All right, after all that, make sure you've sent the final transcript. You will need to send your AP scores from the College Board website. That is not something we send through our high school. You will need to get on your College Board account after graduation. Those last senior year AP scores typically come in early July. Then you will need to send those AP scores from the College Board to the college. At that point, hopefully everything is decisions are made, and you're actually at that point probably about a month away from moving to your college campus. Make sure you send those AP scores. You will also need to make sure you send a ACC transcript if you've taken any dual credit with us. I will again remind y'all of this at the end of the year, but you will need to transfer those hours from Austin Community College to whatever university you end up attending. That will not come from Wimberley High School. That will come from ACC. Find out about immunizations. That a lot of times they won't let you register until you have submitted your immunization records to them. So make sure you're taking care of that. Make sure you have everything completed for financial aid and housing. Sign up for freshman orientation as soon as you're able. Buy a t-shirt that's rocking your college campus name, and just expect great things. I know everybody's a little leery with COVID. I personally have a student still in undergrad, and one of my children is in law school, and it's been very, very eye-opening as they've been navigating COVID on these campuses. So I would just encourage you to stay the course. Hopefully things are better by this time next year, and your student is sitting on a college campus doing great, amazing things. So if we can help you in any way with any of these things, definitely encourage you to reach out to me, to Ms. Phillips. Tracy Maxwell helps us tremendously with Generation Pave the Way, which is a volunteer service that she heads up to just kind of hold a kid's hand through this process. Ms. Phillips and I don't always have time to do that. We certainly do a lot of that, and reach out to us if it's a situation where you just need someone to sit beside you on your Chromebook and get you started. Definitely Tracy Maxwell with Generation Pave the Way can assist you with that as well. With COVID, she's only doing it by appointment, so you can certainly email her. She has a Wimberley ISD email address. She's also on the school board, so it's Tracy Maxwell at Wimberley ISD, tracy.maxwell at wimberleyisd.net, and let her know that you're interested in meeting up with her. Again, certainly reach out to myself, Ms. Phillips. We are here to help you in any way that we possibly can. If we were meeting in person, we would spend this time to answer questions. I always have really great questions coming from parents, and again, usually other parents are having some of those same questions. We obviously can't do that, but please reach out to us with any questions that you may have that maybe I didn't cover or you need a little bit more information about, and we'll be super happy to help. We'll continue to have little videos like this to kind of help you through the process as well as we get a little bit closer to the spring semester and kind of wrapping up the senior year. So good luck. Hope to hear from you soon or see your face at school. Bye.